What's happening? This is my second attempt at recording this home buying 101 video, but I wanted to make sure that it comes out right. And since I still don't know how to freaking edit, I kind of got to go and start and go and start. So, anyway, Bob Knutson asked me about this. Today I put a question out to all y'all in Whimsical Real Estate and asked if there was anything you guys wanted to know. And he wanted to know what kind of costs are involved in buying a new home. He sort of wanted to know also, how do you start? Where does everything go? Because I understand that buying or selling a house, it can be a daunting um, task when you don't really know what's happening. And I also understand that we as real estate agents sometimes take it for granted because we do it all the time. I've been in the business for 15 years. And by the way, I didn't say so, but I'm Michelle Flood with eXp Realty, and I have the Whimsical Real Estate page where we are big fans of cuss words and we are very liberal in our views, probably more so progressive than liberal in our political views. And I believe in home ownership for anybody who wants it, especially marginalized people or people with a whole lot of wealth inequality or income inequality that they're dealing with in their own personal lives. At the end of this video, once I get it finally uploaded, I will put my website and email address in the description box. And so before you get all the way into this video, if you wouldn't mind liking and sharing it and inviting people to that page on Facebook. I got 5 more days in Facebook prison, and then I can go live. So that'll help too, to be able to answer questions and do those kinds of Q&As. And then hopefully I'll finally figure out how to edit videos. I'm looking at a bunch of software. So if you have any ideas in that'd be really helpful. So you're ready to consider starting your home search and you want to know what is the first thing you should do. And so the first thing that I tell everybody to do when they want to buy a house is to speak to a lender. You kind of need to know what you can afford. And what you can afford is different than what your payment is going to be, because you can afford sometimes a lot more price than what you're really comfortable paying. So affording something and feeling comfortable with the payment are two different things. So you go to a lender and you find out what your buying power is, and then you discuss with your lender if there are any blemishes in your credit report that need to be fixed. What are those things that you want to work on? Because some things are more important than others. And so you want to know what should you be repairing, what shouldn't you repair, because that's really kind of important. You also want to talk about, once you figure out what you can afford, how much is my payment going to be? And am I escrowing my taxes and my insurance in this payment? Which I highly recommend you do, because coming to the end of the year and having another $5,000 worth of something you have to pay for, because homeowners insurance is going up exponentially as building supplies are harder to find. And, your taxes can go up too, depending upon how the revenue stream is for whatever state you're living in. And let me also say, all of these things are different state by state. I'm talking about how it works in Florida, though most of what I'm going to tell you here will work for any state that you're in the United States. And I can help you with your real estate transaction wherever you are in whatever state you're in. So hit me up if you need some help with any of that. So people always want to know, what do they have to come to the closing table with? And that's, an important thing to know, because you're going to want to save up some money before you even start the adventure. And generally, if you're going to get a mortgage, it's going to be an FHA mortgage, which is a federally backed mortgage. Like 90% of people end up with this particular product. If you were to get a conventional mortgage, the difference would be that your credit score would be higher and you have more money that you can come to the table for other items that we'll discuss further on in the video. So 3.5% down payment is what you're going to look to have of your purchase price if you have a minimum credit score of 580. Now, there used to be a time when we used to be able to go to sellers before the market went crazy and there were 85,000 offers on a house in the first 5 minutes it was on the market, and people weren't offering several thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the asking price. We could go to our sellers and we could ask them to help our buyers with closing costs, and we can get up to 6%. That's what FHA tells us we can do. Also, in Florida, and I'm sure there must be this in other states too, we can't be the only one that does it. They have first time home buyer programs where the county will actually come in and give you some of your closing costs too. The thing is the money is limited. There's only so much to go around. Generally, right around the first of the year is when you want to jump into that, but you can do it throughout the rest of the year. You just got to check with your county to see when they're offering classes on the first time home buyer project, because you have to do these classes to be able to qualify for the money that they give you. So does your real estate agent. And we have to do this every year, and so do you. So if you take the class this year and you don't really, for whatever reason, end up purchasing a home this year, or you get close to the end of the year and the amount of money for the first time home buyer thing goes belly up, because it does, it runs out after a certain amount of time, then you'd have to start all over again at the first of next year and take the class again, and so does the real estate agent. And to be quite honest, unless I have somebody telling me they want to do that, I don't always do that, because not a lot of people go into the first time home buyer project. And it doesn't necessarily mean, when you hear the words first time home buyer, that you never owned a house. It could mean it's been a decade since you last got a mortgage to purchase a house, and you may still be able to qualify for that first time home buyer assistance from your county. So then, what do you have to pay for when you're doing a closing? So like I said, you're going to probably look at a total of 3.5% of the mortgage price as far as the money that you're going to come bring to your table when you come to close. And some of those things are made up of things that you have to purchase outside of closing, POCs, purchases outside of closing. There's costs associated with the mortgage itself. So you have the survey, you have appraisals, you have home inspections, including pest inspections, you have taxes, you have insurance, you have the title work and the policy and the search to make sure there are no liens or encumbrances on the property itself. You know that the seller had work done and then never paid the contractor, and they can put contractor liens on those properties. And if they're going to put in new street lights or pave your street, those are all encumbrances that will show up, that will mean that there's money that has to come out of somebody's pocket at the closing table to make up for whatever it is that needs to be paid. Also, once it's all said and done and you've closed and you've got the keys and you've moved into the house, the county will have given the title company figures for recording your mortgage, recording the deed and transferring it into your name from the seller's name. You have to pay the taxes from the day of closing to the end of the year. The seller has to pay the taxes from the beginning of the year to the day of closing. Your county and your deed numbers are fixed. It has nothing to do with your mortgage. It has nothing to do with the title company. It has nothing to do with your real estate agent. This is what your county is charging you to do the transaction. And then, of course, they're going to charge you property taxes for as long as you own the property. So the things that are paid outside of closing but will still be reflected on your settlement sheet, because all of this is going to be on your settlement sheet, that you'll get. It's a good faith estimate that you're going to get from your lender and your title company, that whoever is going to perform the title work on this transaction. And in the state of Florida, the seller gets to pick that title company, and the seller pays for the title policy for the buyer as well. So some of those things that you pay for outside of the closing, because you're going to get these services done. One of those things is a survey. You want to survey the bounds of the property to make sure that they all fall into what the county that you live in has them recorded as. So, generally, in the state of Florida, when somebody lists a property, and even when the person comes and says now they're going to make an offer on that property, you go in and you get the description of the property from the property appraiser's office that describes where the property is and what book and page it's recorded in the county. And then the survey people come and they say, yep, all those meets and bounds and lines and the lot are all the same, and no, there's no encumbrance for the utility company to come in and service the poles or the electrical box or whatever it is. Bob's fence isn't on Jen's land or vice versa. All of those things are super important to have done. But you're not going to have your survey done until you have had an appraisal done, and you're not going to have an appraisal done until your home inspection is done. So why do we do it in that order? You probably have it figured out, but you want your appraisal done after the home inspection and the wood destroying organisms inspection, because if it doesn't pass the homeowner's inspection, if the air condition isn't working, if the roof has been showing evidence of leaking, if you've got a leak under the sink, if your water heater's not heating up to the proper temperature, whatever it is that is being inspected, the pool if you have a pool, the septic tank if you have a septic tank, whatever it is, your fireplace, all of those things have to come back okay. By the way, the lender doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff, but you do. And so that needs to be done first. So you get that out of the way. And usually I try to negotiate somewhere between 10 and 15 days for those inspections to happen. Now you're done with the pest and home inspection. And so you can move on to the next phase. So the next phase then would be your survey. Wait, no, sorry. Lies, I'm lying. The next thing that takes place is the appraisal. Because now you want to know, is this property going to appraise for at least what I have offered on it? Especially if you're doing an FHA loan, because you don't really have a lot of wiggle room generally with extra discretionary cash laying around that you can use to close what we call the appraisal gap, which is whatever the house was contracted for versus what the appraisal came back for. And that's super important. It's super important, especially when you're getting an FHA loan. Not so much if you're going to get a conventional mortgage, because in a conventional mortgage situation, you probably have a higher credit score, you probably have a higher income, and you probably could throw money at the purchase if you still want to go forward if the appraisal comes in low. And generally that is always negotiated during the time of going into the contract. So if you're going to buy a house for $250,000, but maybe the appraisers are pushing back, because that's happening, on what's happening in neighborhoods, because just because all of these people have come along now and thrown extra hundreds of thousands of dollars at this house, appraisers are like, yeah, but in the real world, it wouldn't have been this way. So if this is a cash deal and they paid them $100,000 over the asking price and what everything else is going for or should have gone for in here, we're not going to give you that $250,000 or $350,000. We're only going to give you, $200,000 or $300,000. And are you willing to make up the $50,000 to the $250,000? And that would be negotiated at the beginning before we were ever even in contract. So now the appraisal's done and everybody's fat, dumb, and happy because it either came in where they wanted it to right at the asking price, or it came in the amount in which somebody feels comfortable if they got a conventional mortgage to pay that gap in between asking and actual appraisal price. And so then the next thing we're going to do is that survey that I talked about before. The survey is really important. I had people that had 11 acres that they purchased, and from the time that the property was just dirt until when my buyers, who were the third set of people, came along to buy it, was written wrong. And so my buyers were the lucky contestants to find out that they actually only owned 4 acres out of this 11. And as we sit of this discussion, we're still sitting there trying to get that all back into their name the way it should be. And when this property's first purchase was in the late 70s, early 80s, are there even people still alive that, we can talk to? I don't know. This is when your title insurance is supposed to come in and protect you. But so far, that has not happened the way we have wanted to. So the survey is super important. You want that done right after the appraisal, but before you close, so there's no problems with the bounds of your property. Usually, if it's a smaller piece of property, like a normal 0.12 or 0.14 or 0.25 of an acre, that you don't have those issues. It generally happens when it's a huge piece of property like that and they start talking in this language that you never heard before, that walked off those to the southwest corner of the northeast division of the third part of God's acreage to over to this tree. There's a lot of stuff like that. And that's when you sort of see problems with the survey. In 15 years, it only happened once, and it was a nightmare, and I still freak out when I think about it. So the survey, the appraisal, and your homeowner's insurance are all paid outside of your closing, meaning when the survey company comes, they want money from you before they perform the survey. When the home inspector comes, they want money from you before they conduct the home inspection. When the pest inspector comes, they want money before they do the inspection. Same with the pool, same with the fireplace, same with the septic system. If you decide that the home inspector says there's something up with the roof and now you've called a roofer in, or there's a problem with plumbing or electric or AC, and you call somebody in, all of these people want their money before they even look at anything, because if you choose not to buy this house and walk away and all of these people have contracted their time, they want to be paid. And so unless you do those things outside of the closing, you're not going to get those things done. You're not going to have the answers you want. And I would advise you not to go through with the deal. So there's an order and there's a reason for why we do it. So it's home inspection, it's appraisal, it's the home inspection, appraisal, and then survey. All of that has to happen, and it should happen in that order, because you don't want to be paying a bunch of money for something that you're not going to get. So if the home inspection and pest inspection comes back and you're done, then you walk away from that. And there are contingencies in the contract that talk about the appraisal and the survey having to be correct. So it doesn't fall into the window of this is how many days for the home inspection. In the first however many days you contract for, 10, 15, 21, which doesn't usually happen, but 10 to 15 days, there's pretty much any reason that you can come up with that, if that makes I don't like the color of the outside of the house and I'm not going to paint it, you can get out of it. Shh, I didn't tell you that, but people do that. I've seen people do that. Is it the best way to do things? No, but it does happen. There's also costs involved with the loan, so you have to do a loan application and there's costs involved with that. You have to get a credit report. There's costs involved with that. And you may think to yourself, but I can look out at Credit Karma and it shows me what my credit score is. Well, it's not as accurate as what lenders use. So you're going to need to use their credit bureaus, which is the major ones. I mean, it's all the same stuff. Everybody pulls from it. But some things are not on the one that us mortals can look at. So that happens sometimes. So you're gonna have to pay for that. You're gonna have to pay for the processing fees. There's just different loan fees, and your mortgage person is going to tell you those. You're going to get a good faith estimate that's going to tell you what are all the costs going to be associated with me obtaining this loan. What are you charging me? What's the interest rate? What are the points that I'm going to have to pay? All of this stuff is going to be covered in your good faith estimate. even with the title company, they're going to estimate your taxes and your insurance and your recording fees, because you're going to have to record this mortgage and you're going to have to record this transfer of this title on this house, and you're going to have to pay your part of the taxes, and all of those things are going to be estimated out to the closing time that we have determined when we made the offer, usually anywhere between 30 and 45 days. And then they give you back what that price is going to be. And at the bottom of your settlement page, it's going to say funds needed from buyer to come to the closing table. And then you'll have that figure and you'll know what that's supposed to be. And that will give you an idea of what all you need. But again, in the beginning, when you're getting into the process and now we found your house and you're happy with the price we've negotiated, we're going to take 2-3% of that price, and we're going to use that as an earnest money deposit to say that we are going to exercise good faith in getting our inspections done and decide, can we really buy this house because it's going to work for us and we don't have all this work we need to do. So you're going to pay that money up front. They're going to hang on to that for the 10 days that we've negotiated. The title company will. And then if you're happy, that money will now go from what you gave as a good faith estimate, and that will come off the amount of money that you actually have to come to the table with. So even though it might say $9,000, you already gave $3,500 to the title company as your good faith money, or $2,000 or whatever it is, and that's going to come off that bottom line at the bottom of your settlement statement. There are also costs involved in the title work that has to be done, and those fluctuate just like the ones fluctuate from the lender as well. They're set by each state. Every state is different. Florida has their own, and also they're based on the sales price of the house, just like your survey is, just like the appraisal is, and just like your home inspection is. So all of those things. So like your home inspection can go anywhere from, I don't know, $375 all the way up to like $600, determined by the size of the property. The appraisal the same way. Usually the pest inspection is a fixed fee, and they'll be really good. I mean, most companies are, not all of them, but most companies will take the amount that you gave them to do the pest inspection, and if they find anything and you decide you're going to go forward with the house, they're going to apply that to the remedy of whatever wood destroying organisms they find in your property. And I'm pretty sure that's the extent of what your costs are. So everything's pretty much determined by the price of the property that you're purchasing. 3.5% if you have a 580 credit score. We can try to get 6% in closing costs, which would also reduce your bottom line amount of money needed to close from the buyer at the bottom of your settlement sheet, if we can get the seller to give any money away. It's still I'm looking at things today, and I'm still seeing that there's a whole lot of houses that came on the market. In fact, I'm going to do another video right after this because I thought they were kind of funny looking at what's on the market today. I think there were 53 houses. Still not a lot of people accepting FHA mortgages, because FHA will file a case number when an appraiser goes out there, and whatever that home appraises for, if it's less than what the contract price is and it blows up, now that appraisal is attached to that property for at least 6 months, and they don't want that. Doesn't happen that way with a conventional mortgage. So I think that's about it. I have like 5 more days till I can go live, and we can do some of these things as Q&As if you guys want to pop in. But I think that's pretty much everything that I can think about the top of my head that you need to do. I'm just trying to think through when I go through a buyer, what do they do, and when I go through a seller, and this is pretty much it. So the 6% thing is kind of cool if you can get it from them, but like I said, stuff staying on the market longer, they're still not accepting a lot of FHAs, and so you're not really going to get closing costs yet from people, even though I think it's probably time for that to start. Now you got buyers who just think they don't have to do anything because that's how it was last summer. and things are changing. So, like I said, my hope is to help as many marginalized and income inequality challenged people as I can to find homes. And I that's my whole goal. That's what I really love to do. So again, I'm going to put all my contact information inside of the description box. And if you liked this video and you found it informative, I know it's kind of long. I try not to make them that way, but sometimes what are you going to do? Anyway, send it to your friends. Thanks for watching and have a good day.